and welcome to episode 91 of A Gamer Looks at 40. I'm Bill Tucker, and today we have our very, very special Portland Retro Gaming Expo 2023 recap episode. If you're a patron of this show, then you heard 3 individual episodes recorded from my hotel room the morning after the original event, the morning after the day. So you got raw thoughts, raw opinions, and kind of a little unfiltered. This is a more generalized view of the convention itself, my experience with it, my experience with the city, and frankly, what it meant to me. And this is going to end up a little sappy. I did my outline, and again, it's me. It's just how I roll, I guess. Again, 42-year-old dad, I don't know. But this was a very meaningful convention for me in a lot of personal reasons, and it was just a lot of fun in general to be around the video game community and the retro gaming community and just being a part of it. This episode will also have on-the-floor interviews that I conducted throughout the course of the convention. I did about 6 interviews with different people at different times, and I think they're pretty neat. So I want to do some on-the-floor correspondence and share that with y'all in this episode. And if you're listening to this because I interviewed you at the festival, sorry, I'm in festival season at the convention. You may not be here because my microphone setup may or may not have ate your entire interview. There's a couple that just didn't. I recorded it and it just didn't come across for whatever reason. I'm looking into the tech issues I had, but if you're not on here, it's not because of content. It's simply because it devoured your entire conversation. So I apologize in advance for that. Reach out to me. I'd love to have you on the show regardless in a separate situation. All right, so let's go ahead and start off with my first experiences with Portland as a city. Whenever I talk about events and conventions, I do this for when I used to cover ACL Fest and South by Southwest. I like to bring in the context of the city itself because you're spending time in the city, not just in the convention center, but you're eating out, you're hanging out, you're going to the arcades, you're going out downtown, etc. Portland is a very interesting city in that it feels just like Austin. Austin is often called Portland South and Brooklyn West, and this is actually pretty accurate for a number of different reasons. Firstly, it's just has a cool vibe to it. It's got this push and pull of modern and old school. There's some really cool older style restaurants. Everything has this kind of sheen of weird and quirky that Austin also has. The downside of that, though, is that just like Austin, it feels like Portland is trying to paint over its problems with cool restaurants and murals and all these kind of neat things that a hip urban center would have. And Portland's got problems, and so does Austin. Every major city does, but I think Portland and Austin in particular really leans into their weirdness and leans into their cultural identity and forgets about some of the other problem things that may be occurring, such as the rising cost of living and how expensive it is to eat in this area and the serious homeless problem. I am going to dine on that a little bit because Austin has a homeless problem as well. And I'm trying to shed homeless and use, unhomed, because I do think it's a kinder term. So I apologize if I'm not using that kinder term because it's not the quote unquote inconvenience. It's just really sad. These people need help. They need mental health. They have mental health problems. They have serious problems. I've been in situations where I don't think I've been as troubled or as afflicted as some of these people, but I definitely have moments where I've been in public and I found myself talking to myself, or I found myself fixated on an object on the floor. I've struggled with that since I was 8. And so to see these people just on their own in a city with no source of help, and it's an issue that really doesn't have a great solution, is very sad. And especially in the morning where that's all you're seeing. And that's, I think, the big difference with Portland as opposed to Austin. Austin, they're intermingled with the different people who live there. And in Portland, boy, it just feels like they're on their own. And it was a really sad, theft is a serious problem. All the When I went into a CVS to get myself some room snacks, all of the snacks and candy were behind locked doors, like you would find at a computer store with memory and graphics cards. And I asked the person, hey, where's the aisle for such and such food snack? And he's like, yeah, what's there is there. We have a really big problem with theft. And again, that's all a sign of a city pulling at the edges, but still trying to paint over the cracks. It's like painting over moldy drywall. I will say that mass transit was frankly fantastic. I think it was cheap and convenient. It runs late into the night. It's a great system of buses and light rails. I've never seen anything quite like it, and I've been to a number of metropolitan cities, and just the way it's structured is really convenient. I can't imagine driving in Portland. Driving must be a beast, but taking mass transit was awesome. Aside from a quick kerfuffle, getting from the airport to the hotel when I first arrived, evidently the light rail station in Portland Airport is down or being rebuilt, and it's under construction. And by the time you hear this, it may be done. It may be finished, I think. But I had to get on a shuttle that took me to another shuttle that took me to a train depot, which I thought was going to be inside, but it wasn't. It was outside, and it was chilly and rainy because it's Portland and it's always raining. So it was a bit of a mess getting there. It took me a while. But once I figured it out, it was really convenient and cool. You can pay for all your fares with your phone, with one touch phone, which is great. They make it really convenient and good. And again, I've seen good mass transit. I'm from the New York area, so I know the New York subway system well, and I love New York, and the subway system is fantastic because you just don't drive. And I've been to Boston, and the T is pretty great. And I've been to Washington, D.C., and the Metro is pretty great. But I don't know, there's something about the Portland Metro that was really very convenient and really good, nice and clean. It's just not in New York. This subway is not clean in the city. But it was really good. So the first evening of PRGE, I got to the hotel around 4:30. Had just kind of chilled out for a bit, and then made my way to the convention center to pick up credentials and go check out the arcade. Now, the arcade was the only thing open during the Friday of PRGE. None of the vendor stuff was open yet. Really, that was the only thing available. The arcade is amazing. It was well over 100 pinball machines and arcade cabinets, all of them free to play. Just wander around. There was a lot of people there, but there was more than enough machines for everyone to share. And everyone was really cool about, letting them getting off the machine in favor for somebody who's waiting. I played a bit of Marble Madness, which I love that game. I was terrible at it. Played a little Virtua Fighter. Met up with some of the Gamers Week Discord people. Like I met Sheriff Snacks with Brandon. I met Ducks in Disguise and Redox and really all the whole crew. And that was the best part of it. As I go through this, I'm going to talk about the community piece because that was the most special for me. But that was really cool. Kind of walked around, walked around. Then the main attraction of the evening, aside from the arcade, was Rex Viper. Now, Rex Viper, if you don't know, is James Rolfe's the Angry Video Game Nerds band. They performed at the show. They built the stage really just for them. Really, that's what they built it for, and the cosplay contest, which we'll talk about. And when James Rolfe walks into a retro convention, he is the Pope. All eyes go to James, and it makes sense. He's the pioneer. He's the originator of the angry game critic. He was the first really popular angry game, or just really game critic on YouTube. And he's a pioneer. And whether you like his work or not, I used to love his work, and I've kind of fallen off of it over the years. I don't say grew out of it, but it's just not my thing really anymore. But you got to respect the guy for his contributions to internet culture. He's an icon in this retro space. His band, Rex Viper, they're a cover band. They do covers, some video game songs, some just rock and roll songs, all in a very hard rock kind of vibe. James doesn't sing. I think he plays rhythm or lead. I don't know what guitar he was playing, but he plays guitar. So that's kind of what he did. They were fine. They were perfectly adequate. I am very spoiled. At the Austin Games Fest, or Classic Game Fest here in Austin, they have a lot of music here, and the music is really good. There's metal bands playing covers and electronic artists and lots of really good music. in Austin because Austin is a music city. That's what we're known for. So I'm spoiled on good local music. I really am. And I don't mean to be divisive. If I was at a bar and I saw them playing at the bar, I wouldn't leave the bar. It was fun. Everyone had fun. The crowd had a good time. I wish they had done some originals. Again, it was just, they were perfectly adequate for the job they were there to do. Again, the crowd was really into it. And evidently James is a really nice guy. The duo of Pixel Pawns, which was again Ducks in the Skies and Redox PDX, they were hired by PRGE to do production for the event. When James Rolfe and crew showed up, they didn't have anybody to shoot their actual concert. They didn't bring a production crew, which makes sense. They kind of, I think they figured PRGE would take care of it. That was not the case. So Redox and Ducks, they spent basically the entire day of Friday with them, just shooting their warm-ups and conversing with them, seeing what shots they wanted. And so they're going to produce they produced all the content and footage that James is going to use in his eventual PRGE music video. So, and this is really good exposure for them, really good, just really good exposure for Pixel Pods. I'm really proud of those guys. Those two, they started a company and it's going well. They're doing work. They're doing a great job. So yeah, I really just appreciate what they're doing. I'm so glad. And James was evidently very happy with the work they produced. He's a nice guy. They at the hotel bar afterwards, after the performance, Ducks and Red were chatting with the band. I walked over and gave a very awkward hi. Even though I have a story for James, if I ever meet him and get over my social anxiety and actually introduce myself, I got a story for him about when he was on the Opie and Anthony show back in 2006 on XM satellite radio. And it was a very awkward conversation. And obviously more of a joke. It's been 20 years or so at this point now, but it's, yes, I know. I have a story for him. So the next day was Saturday, which was my main day at the festival. Again, festival. Sorry, I'm still in festival mode. The main day of the convention, I was there to do a lot of content creation and shooting and TikToks and all the fun stuff, which I will get to. PRGE as an actual convention is huge. It took up 3 giant ballrooms in the Portland Convention Center, which was beautiful, by the way. Well, it was a gorgeous, gorgeous space. Beautiful, great convention center, lots of room to do things. It was a very spacious event. Everything felt very spaced out and well organized as far as the vendor booths and things of that nature. Again, tons of vendors, kind of there to shop. That's really what those are. They had a huge section of console games, everything from early PC Commodore to N64, I think was the latest one or the most recent one on that shelf. And just go there, pick up, play. I think you could ask the team there to give you a game, like, hey, do you have Mario 2? Yeah, here you go. So it was a really cool experience to be, again, just sit down and play games. And that's the whole point of it. Blockbuster had a whole section, which was basically a fake store where you could actually buy the DVDs on offer. That was actually very neat. They also had a VHS, I think it was a VHS swap, where you could buy old ancient VHS tapes. I think that was available to everybody, whether you had a badge or not. Very cool as well. I did not stop in there. I just kind of heard about it. And it was really, really cool. I don't, at this point though, I don't buy stuff. I'm not a collector of any sort. I did pick up some stuff and I'll mention that at the end, but I'm not a collector. So for me, this is more of just like a museum, walking around seeing cool stuff like, oh, wow, that's neat. But I feel for these people too, because they're all, they're small business owners. They're trying to make a buck. And I wish I had room for really cool tchotchke type things, but I do not. So I do not. But I did get some things towards the end. One of the coolest things I saw there was a giant NES controller. You could play Super Mario Brothers World 1-1 on this giant NES controller, so big that you need about 3 people at least to play the controller. One person standing on their knees trying to hit a giant control pad. and the other two hitting button A and button B. So it turns into real co-op to move Mario across the screen. And this thing, dimensions of this thing were insane. It was literally, I want to say 20 feet long, maybe, just eyeballing. But if you want more specifics on what this is, I actually chatted with the gentleman who was running that activation and who got that controller out of the archives and into their hands. So here's a quick conversation with Jay as he talks about the NES controller, its origins, and where it's going to go from here.
Hey, mind if I give a quick interview with you?
Sure, absolutely.
Very quick, because I know you're working then.
No, that's all good.
So your name is?
My name is Jason Bamonti. I go by JBam Official on Instagram. I'm a diehard collector. I partnered up with saving this thing with my friend Dan, who runs Video Games New York, and our friend Kevin. We got a phone call from one of our good friends who's a friend of a person who was working at the company who just took over G4's headquarters. So when G4 came back, they commissioned this piece, which is a world record-breaking video game controller, which was unbeknownst to me. They did practically nothing with it, and then they went out of business and they abandoned it. So we got the text message saying, "Do you want this thing?" And at first, I was told it was like 6 feet. And I own a pool hall in New Jersey, Breaker Billiards. And I was like, oh, this is a cool piece to add to the collection. And then I got the measurements. It is over 18 feet by 8 feet. It weighs almost 2,000 pounds. So I said, man, what am I going to do with this thing? There's nothing I can do with it. So then I texted my friend Dan from Video Games New York. I said, Dan, I hope you say no, but do you want to save this thing? And the answer was really short, simple, straight to point. Yes. So here we are. We scrambled to get it out, to get it alive. We put in about $12,000 of our own money to get it here. You know, we're looking for community support because we want this thing to either go around the country, or we want this to land its feet at maybe an institution like a museum. Yep. We want this thing for the public. There's nothing to do for us. We'd have to live in this thing. It's bigger than our house is. So, like, this is our whole goal is to save this thing. We do have a GoFundMe now. We just set up a few weeks ago, but we really haven't done a hard launch on today up until today. So we're hoping that the community gets behind it because this will break the world record. We have been in contact with Guinness Book of World Records. We think it's kind of cool the fact that we could bring this back to the country. You know what I mean? Like, I think it's awesome. And when I tell you, it does dwarf the current holder. So it might be a long time before this record could be broken. So once again, man, thank you for taking the time to...
Yeah, thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Awesome.
And from there, I was off to the Blockbuster World Championships. Now, this is the part of the episode where I'm going to be a little hot takey. I am not trying to be mean, and I'm not trying to be divisive. I'm just trying to be honest, but still remain professional. Because as you know, if you listen to this show, I do treat this like a professional show. I treat this with respect. I treat my guests with respect. I don't get into hot take topics. I don't get into controversies. I'll explore it a little bit, but it's not what I'm here for. I'm here to share fun stories about people's experiences with games. That's what I do. But when I have friends who have been asked and invited by an event to perform and host an event, and they are not given the support they need to perform in the best way possible, it's really irksome. And I'll get into it a little bit. Now, the Blockbuster World Championships, this is the fourth annual one, was at the PRGE festival / I keep saying festival, again, it's festival season for me, at the expo. And the idea is that it's a video game competition like back in the old days, where groups of people would compete for high scores on different games. And then, of course, the winner would receive a trophy, which is a very cool trophy, and $1,500. It's not chump change, which was actually very cool. And it takes place over the course of 2 days. And there's a giant stage in the convention hall that is designed for the auction, which I'll talk about very briefly because I showed up very briefly for it. It's this huge stage with probably at least a couple of hundred chairs, chairs seating. It's a very impressive scene. It has the Blockbuster logos behind it. And the crew at Gamers Week, Blue Williams, Ryan, and Donnie G Retro, were brought in to host the awards. And this is a big deal Portland Retro Gaming Expo is a huge event. It's one of the biggest gaming expos in the country. People come from all over the country to attend, and to host a headlining event is a really big deal. And they prepared. They got there a day early. They saw the space. They saw where they'd be sitting. They kind of gauged some of the tech. Problem is that on that first day, nothing worked. Nothing worked. The event was supposed to be live streamed on Twitch. Twitch didn't work. They couldn't get OBS running properly. So everything on the giant screens that was supposed to be showcasing the actual gameplay was just an OBS screen with the cameras. And if you know OBS, it's the software people use to stream. So it was like an editing software, digital software thing on the screen. Very unprofessional. The mics weren't working properly when they first got there. Dux had to step in and take time away from his coverage of the event, coverage he's being paid to do by PRGE, to try and get some semblance of order on the board, and there was no one there to support them. And that is extremely frustrating to me. This is not a flex. This is not me look how fancy I am. But I've attended major events, and I've done coverage for events like ACL Fest and South by Southwest and big shows and ACL Live with Willie Nelson and Group of Phantasma. I've been to large events that are held by large performers, and the Classic Game Fest here in Austin, which is a similar convention, just a half of the size, because it's still relatively new. It's one of the biggest in Texas, but it's, doesn't hang with Portland, of course. And I've been to these events, and I've been press at events. So I know what it is to work an event, and every event I've been to has either been competently run or beautifully run. ACL Fest runs like clockwork. They've been doing it for 30 years. Of course it does. South by Southwest, for the most part, runs beautifully. 2 years ago, they had a lot of issues. I think it was COVID related. They couldn't get people to do things, etc. It was the first time, but usually runs like clockwork. You know exactly what you're doing, when you show up, what you can bring in, etc. They have a media area. They have places where you can put your stuff away and take a break and relax. I don't feel like they had any of that there. And if they did, it wasn't evident in the performances that the folks at Gamers Week were doing. The first day was awkward and strange and frankly not okay. And again, I don't want this to turn into a bash fest because the Gamers Week crew did a great job with the challenges they had. The game that the contestants were playing was a homebrew game that barely worked. It was not conducive to commentating. That was their job, was to commentate the award, not the awards, the competition. And it's literally a little spaceship that went up and down like a side scroller. It was like a shmup with no shooting where you collected videotapes. It barely worked. It was buggy. Contestants were getting hung up on environments. And it just didn't seem like a well-run, organized event. And the reason I'm so kind of incensed about this is because the crew at Gamers Week spent time away from work. They spent airfare. They spent money on hotels. They spent money on food. They spent money on their merch and their giveaways. And they spent an extreme amount of energy preparing for this event. And to not have support from the organizers of the event, to just be left to do their own tech support, left to do their own setup. Hey, here's a stage, have fun with it, without any prior warning, that's not okay. That is literally not okay. And I don't mind saying it because I highly doubt anybody from any convention is going to invite me anywhere. I'm not that kind of show. I'm not a personality-based show. I'm a story-based show. So that's just what it is. Gamers Week's a personality-based show, and they were there because they have a great chemistry and because they have great personalities when they're performing. And I say performing because when you're on stage doing these things, and again, I've done TV, I've done morning TV, I've done a lot of media stuff in my life, and I don't talk about it too often because it's really shouldn't be about me. But I've been in these scenarios when you are in an environment where you're expected to perform. It's extremely taxing. I've been on morning shows, and then when I got home, I take a nap because it just requires an energy to do. And I really wish PRGE respected the talent. I don't know if they got like stipends for their hotels. I honestly don't know. So I don't know. Maybe they did get some. Maybe PRGE did cover some airfare or some hotels. I honestly don't know. But if they didn't, and regardless, they had to take time off from work and vacation time. Like, I don't know. It was the first day of the Blockbuster Awards or Blockbuster competition was just very disorganized, wasn't well attended, but the Gamers Week crew really did their best. They were trying to engage the audience. They were trying to get people to tell stories in the midst of this quote unquote competition that was not visually appealing, was not being streamed on Twitch, and no one saw. So a very disappointing start to the day, unfortunately. The next day I'll talk about was much better. PRGE, credit to them. They got the message when they discussed it with Ducks and the team. And the next day was much better. And we'll talk about that when we get to day 2. However, the good thing about it is I still got to have a lot of fun conversations. Firstly, with our pal Mega Retro Man. He was competing in the competition. You know him from an earlier episode of A Gamer Looks at 40, where he talked about his experiences in the Tetris competition. So here's a conversation with Mega Retro Man as he's getting ready for the competition, and then followed by a conversation with Blue and Ryan as they prepare to host the Blockbuster Video Game World competition thing. Almost said awards again.
All right, Bill Tucker here with the Gamer Looks at 40. My first interview is with a gentleman who's been on the show a few times. 2 solid episodes about his journey through the Classic Tetris World Championship, Mr. Mega Retro Man. What's going on, dude?
Not too much. How's it going?
Doing awesome, man. I am here. I got in here maybe yesterday afternoon, and I'm already feeling fatigue. So I'm trying to pace myself. Doing my best. We'll see how this goes. So you're competing today at the Blockbuster World Championship, right?
That's correct. It'll be my second time. I participated last year and took 3rd place.
Dang, 3rd place. Well done. Well done. So what are you aiming? Well, obviously at least 3rd place this time around.
Well, I'm aiming for nothing but number 1.
You're just going for number 1.
I want that big prize.
What is the big prize? I don't even know.
From my understanding, it's $1,500 for first place.
Nice. I'll take that.
Yeah, and I think 500 for second and $250 for third. So it's the same as it was last year, but they raised it up for first place by 500.
That's awesome, man. That's cool. So you were telling me before that it's going to be homebrew games this year, 100%?
Correct. These games are straight homebrews. They have been released on multi-game carts for the Jaguar. I didn't know about them until like a few days ago. So
oh, no.
Yeah, so here I am just like looking everywhere for ROMs or something close to it. I did find one, which was the first game that was close to, I saw a little bit of what we're going to be playing, and it is similar, but the one I got was buggy as hell.
Oh no.
Bad.
So how do you feel about it being on homebrew games as opposed to like established things that you can practice on? Is the challenge okay for you? Is it more of like, hey, I'd like an opportunity to prepare?
As a long-time tournament gamer, yeah, I'd like to be prepared for any tournament that I go to. So going into something like this blind, not my first time, but for it being homebrews and nothing but homebrews and not the AAA games, the games that were released to the public, it's different.
I can imagine that. So when you're preparing for something like this, and this is going to be a 2-day thing, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Correct.
When you're preparing for something like this, like what does your preparation sound like? Because this is a lot of events, a lot of game. What is your preparation like?
Well, on a normal day, I like to have a big breakfast. So that way I'm not feeling drained in the middle of the day. But I skipped breakfast and I'm thinking I'm going to regret that.
Oh no.
Yeah. So, but yeah, a big breakfast has always been my thing to do for any kind of big tournament day. And just kind of go in, have fun, find a bunch of people that you may know, and all those nerves just kind of settle down and they go away. Cool. Like we've got the Gamers Week podcast crew that are going to be emceeing the Blockbuster event, and these are all very good friends of mine. So the fact that they're here, the fact that you're here, it takes the nerves away, and it makes me feel good.
That's awesome, man. Well, best of luck. Also, one other quick question. Are you also doing CTWC this year?
Yes.
Oh, you're making a comeback. All right.
Kind of. So
Okay.
I'm not qualifying for the main event.
Okay.
I've been invited to do the Legends tourney, and what that is they're bringing back people who competed between the years of 2010 and 2018. And it was by invite only. So they invited me, and I said, hey, why not?
You're here anyway, right?
Exactly.
That's
some fun.
How does it feel to be referred to as, and I'm going to quote, a legend?
Well, again, not my first time ever being called that. I've already had people say, hey, it's the Jonas Slayer.
The Jonas Slayer, as evidenced in episode, I don't even know what it was. This 20-something, but
Yeah, it was
you haven't listened to that.
2019, the year that it happened, and I haven't been in a CTWC event since because of finger pains when I play games. So I still get them from time to time, but it's greatly diminished. So that's the whole reason why I said, yeah, I'll go ahead and jump in on this. This could be a lot of fun, and that's what it is. It's fun. It's not for some big stakes like the main event is. This is, it's a Legends tournament. We're bringing back the old guard. Let's have some fun with this.
I love that. Love that so much. Hey, man, thanks again. Good luck. Probably chat with you maybe afterwards. I'm going to be here all week, or all weekend, rather, so we'll chat again after your inevitable victory. Inevitable. I'm rooting for you now, all right?
I'm crossing my fingers. Thank you.
Yeah, man. So I am here with Blue and Ryan from the Gamers Week podcast, getting ready for the Blockbuster World Championships. Guys, are you guys excited, nervous? It hasn't started yet. There's a sea of empty chairs. What's your emotions right now?
Hell, at this point, we just want it to work.
Right. So running through a bit of a technical difficulties, but we're working through it. And for the most part, I think it's going to go off without a hitch. So I'm excited. Yeah.
Now, are they counting on you to handle the technical difficulties? I was surprised there's not a tech person. I'm not saying you can handle it, of course, but you guys should be focusing on the performance and getting ready,
Right.
not OBS.
We need to be doing our audio warm-ups and all the vocal things.
Me. Right.
Right.
Speak from the diaphragm. So, you guys, the podcast has been going for a year and a half now, I think. Is it
About 2 years here in a little bit. So December will be 2 years. Officially, January 4th would be our 2 years.
Actually,
Sorry.
January 4th will be 2 years.
Right.
which is in podcast time is not a ton. How does it feel starting from where you were 2 years ago to now being on a big stage at one of the biggest game conventions in the country, doing the Blockbuster video game competition? How does that ring for you when you think about that?
Well, I hadn't felt that in that context yet, so
Thank you. Thank me for making you nervous. Okay.
Yeah. Thanks for pointing that out right before we get on stage. Yeah. No, that's cool. I don't know. It's surreal.
Yeah.
None of this seems real. Absolutely none of it.
100%. But one of the things I think is that we've done a decent job trying to do as much as we can to make this podcast the best it can be.
Mm-hmm.
And so getting invited to something like this, I think is a testament to the work that we put in. So,
And I think that's a really great point, because you guys have done an amazing job of creating a community, like really a community. Y'all are just fun to listen to, and it's a really, of course, I'm a fan, obviously. So, what are you looking forward to most from this whole weekend rather, at PRGE, other than this, of course?
I think right now I've already accomplished that. Is getting a chance to meet people, putting names to faces, people I've interacted with, and that has been an awesome experience so far. So.
Yeah, getting to learn people's actual real names, because you know them by their Twitter handle, by their Twitch handle, and you're like, wait, no, you're a person with a face, and that part has been really fun.
Awesome, y'all. Well, I will definitely be in attendance for some of this, and maybe I'll chat with you afterwards to get some reactions on how you feel it went, some stories of challenges hurdled, and yeah, y'all. I'll let you get back to work because I know you're working.
Thank you so much.
Bill.
Before I continue blathering, I'd like to blather about the following wonderful patrons, including Terry Kinnair, Greg Seward of the Player One podcast and Generation 16 series of videos, Games with Coffee, the Let's Play Princess, Theodore LaBarbera, BT Goebbels, Tim Knowles of The Elitist, Julian of Nerds Without Pants, Seth Sergil of the All In podcast, and then finally, the wonderful, smashing, and ever debonair Pete Harney. If you would like to join these wonderful human beings, please log on to patreon.com/a gamer looks at 4040. Check out the tiers, and if something appeals to your sense of generosity, sign up today. So after the awards, I set out to create stuff. Film stuff, shoot stuff, video stuff. I brought my big DSLR with me to take stills. I had a little handheld gimbal for my cell phone that I was using to shoot some video for TikTok. I had a microphone, obviously, attached to my phone that I was using to collect interviews. Unfortunately, the mic setup, it just didn't connect properly to my phone with the little dongle. And it just wasn't the greatest setup. It wasn't super successful, which is why I only have like a few interviews. But hey, I got some cool ones, as I hope you agree. But the rest of the day was just kind of spent hanging out. Again, lots of cool people in costumes and cosplay. I hate shooting under fluorescent light. I don't know how to do it. And on the second day, I didn't bring the big camera because my back was killing me because I'm an old man and I wasn't getting good shots. And I'm like, I'm getting better stuff with my phone. Let me just focus on the video for TikTok and just do that stuff. So we'll talk about some of the other things on day one in a minute, but it's this cool environment. Again, I looked at stuff, looked at old games, marveled at prices. I didn't do any real shopping until the second day, which I'll talk about, but it was a really fun experience to, again, be around the community, see people. I met Brett Weiss, which was cool. He was on an episode a few months ago. Really cool to meet him in person and chat with him for a minute. He was very distracted. He was working with an auction house, and he was distracted and he was working. So we didn't get a big conversation because, again, he's trying to gather people and work. So, I don't want to bother people while they're working. But it was really cool to meet him. I like him. He's a nice guy. He was very, very gracious to be on the show a few months ago. So cool to see him in person. And as I was roaming around, I've grabbed people to talk to. First was Emo-esque and Sheriff Snacks. I grabbed them on the showroom floor to just talk about the convention, ask them some questions. And then after that, I talked with a gentleman by the name of Alex, who was there to compete in the Blockbuster Championships, talk about some of his favorite games, and ask him some old school 3 questions that yielded some surprising results.
All right, I am here with Brandon, also known as Sheriff Snacks. Is that
Sheriff Snacks?
Sheriff Snacks?
Yeah.
And my man Emo.
What's up?
From the Gamers Week Discord and other such things. Y'all, how are you enjoying the convention so far?
Very good. Having a great time. It's huge. This is probably the biggest year I've seen.
It's not good for my wallet. There's a lot of things to buy, a lot of booths. It's pretty good. It's a fun time.
Now, what is your purchasing strategy? Do you kind of like skim first and then you buy, or is it just impulse completely?
Oh, you got to shop around. You got to find the best deal. I mean, you're going to see a ton of different prices at different booths, so it's risky not to buy it right off because you might lose it, but good chance you'll find it at another booth for cheaper.
I would say it depends on the rarity of what you're looking for. If it's something that you're not seeing a bunch of, buy it when you see it, right? But if it's something that's a little more common, like I'll try to skim around and kind of get where the best price-ish is, because prices can vary wildly in here.
I can imagine. Now, I'm going to ask you guys a quick question. You know how I do with my show. It's all about memories and such. What was the first game that you fell in love with? Not played or not like, what's the one that like you just fell in love with?
Mario 3.
Mario 3. So did you play that upon release?
Yes.
Okay, so what about Mario 3 just entranced you so much?
Well, you know, the Mario 1 being what it was, that was probably the first game I played, and so I already had a pretty good relationship with Mario. But, you know, it's Mario 3 is Mario 1 times 10, right? So, I mean, it's just like, how can they make the greatest game ever better? That. And that's what it was. I was obsessed with it, and I still play through it like once a year.
How many hours do you think you've put into Mario 3?
100.
Easy 100?
Yeah, easy.
What about you, Emo?
Oh man, I'd probably have to go with Super Mario World. I was a little bit later to the gaming scene, and that was the first one we really had at home, and just a ton of family memories, ton of co-op. First real game we got into, sank our teeth into.
Nice. You played a lot with family?
Oh yeah, probably 10 times through the game with my dad.
That's awesome. That's very cool, man. Cool. Here's what we ask you the hard question. This is a hard one. You can take your time. I'll edit it. Make it
hard already.
No, not that. This is a challenging one. If you're up for it.
Okay.
If you had, I did this on 3 questions, so you might be familiar with it already.
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay. If you had the ability to resurrect one video game franchise, but in order to do, if you had the ability to add one more game to a video game franchise, whether it's existing or old, however, to do so, you have to kill an entire franchise to do it. You're going to kill a franchise and use that aura to resurrect, to make one game. Now, there's 2 rules. It has to have at least 3 games in the franchise. DLC does not count, so you can't be like Last of Us, I'm going to murder Last of Us, because DLC does not count.
Okay.
And 2, the franchise you destroy, everyone knows you did it. They know your social media, they know your Instagram, they don't know where you live, that'd be weird. But, so, what series do you add something to? And what do you completely destroy from Oblivion and deal with the consequences?
Oh, dude, I'm going new Lost Vikings. Give me a third one.
Let's go, Lost Vikings. That's
classic.
That's the answer.
Wow.
And, I was going to say kill Call of Duty until everybody knew, so we'll go with kill Battlefield. It's already trending down. People are over it. I might have some angry people, but not a ton.
Not a ton. I think it's a very safe. Those are both very safe. Lost Vikings is a good pick, dude. Well done. Brandon.
Oh my goodness. I'm gonna have to circle back around to the one I would bring back.
So there's something you want to destroy right away. Clearly, there's something that you have an intense hatred for.
No, not intense hatred. That was something I was thinking of, and I actually like some of these games, but I think I would get rid of Far Cry.
Ooh.
Right? Like, they're fun, and don't get me wrong, I like them. I own a few of them, but like, I don't think they brought anything that we would miss if they never existed, if that makes sense.
It's not a vital franchise.
No, right? Like, it's not contributing a giant piece to video games as a whole, right?
I love that.
So I think I would get rid of that. As far as something I would bring back, yeah, Lost Vikings was a banger of an answer.
I don't know if I'm going to get a better one. This is the first one I've asked this weekend, so.
And now I feel put on the spot because I'm like,
I'm sorry.
I don't think I can think of anything better than that.
Well, we already have one we're going to destroy. You can think about it, and maybe later, if you can, I can always cut it in if you want. Yeah. That's what I do. So, guys, thanks a lot. I appreciate it, y'all. Let me get your name, where you're from. You already told me here, but for the audience.
Yeah, I'm Alex from Minneapolis, Minnesota. This is my 2nd year being here. Yeah.
Awesome, man. Now you're here to just hang out, but you were telling me before you compete with Tetris 2.
If there was ever a Tetris 2 competition, I would definitely participate in it. But no, I do play a lot of Tetris 2. I know a lot of the Tetris fans absolutely hate the game. I find it relaxing. I don't play at a fast pace whatsoever. It allows me to think about my next move, and for me, it's just enjoyable for some reason.
What was the first game that you fell in love with? Not like first play. What's the first one that just you fell in love with?
Max Payne.
Wow. Okay. Why?
It was the storyline. Sam Lake wrote a really a good storyline for it, and it was really deep and in-depth, and I told myself, damn it, you could make a movie out of this, and of course they did, and I'm not a fan of the movie because I think they left a lot of the good parts out, but it was the first game where I remember I took the whole weekend to sit down and play it, and I just fell in love with it.
That's awesome. That's really cool. Just an interesting take, but I love the idea that the cinematics of it, it's probably what sounds like the story caught you. And was it more than the play, or was it kind of that marriage between the two?
It was a marriage between the two, but I lean heavily towards the writing, and then the sequel came out and they tightened up that gameplay, and they really tightened up the storyline. It was actually the first game that actually made me cry at one point.
Wow. Isn't that crazy when a game can do that, right? It's crazy.
It's huge. I remember it too. It's in the second part of the game. Max and Mona are having this conversation in her funhouse hideaway, and Max goes into this little mental conversation about the things he wants. He mentions about, he misses his wife and kids. I'm like, that hurts. That hurts hard.
It's so interesting how a game like that can hit you.
Afterwards, in the evening, around 5 o'clock, I attended the Retronauts panel, which was great. I very rarely attend panels, but I'm a big fan of that podcast. They did a panel about Mario and other media, which was very good, very funny. They talked about the movies and the old anime and commercials. Very fun, very lively. Those guys are pros. Jeremy Parrish and that crew, they've been doing this forever. I think this is their 10th PRGE because they're all live in that area. Also, a big surprise for me was Gary Butterfield of Watch Out for Fireballs was also on the panel with Jeremy and that Retronauts crew. And it was so cool to see him there. Watch Out for Fireballs every year. Gary is from Portland. He lives in Portland. So they have had a presence there every year. This year, they were denied a panel for whatever reason. And that crew, Cole and Gary have been very professional in that conversation. They've been disappointed. They had a booth, but it wasn't occupied. They just made the decision, you know what, we're just not going to participate this year. But it was really cool to see Gary do his thing on stage. He is so funny and so sharp and so quick. It was really fun to see him. I wanted to come up and say hi again. My social anxiety kicked in and I just got mealy mouthed, like, I can't walk over to Gary Butterfield. And that bums me out because I'm sure he would have liked to meet somebody like, hey, cool, I'm glad you like the show. Just like I would love to meet somebody at this thing who says, hey, Bill, I love your show. It would be very affirming, right? And just cool to meet people who are into the podcast. But for some reason, my eyes kind of shut down. Again, social anxiety just hit me and I did not. So I just kind of sat there and looked at him weirdly, as I sometimes do. They also had I'll say almost a museum exhibit. Half of it was a Jaguar/Lynx exhibit where they had old consoles and games. And I think there's some setups where you could try some of the old Jaguar games. They had every Lynx game in existence and behind these glass plastic shields, there aren't many. So again, really cool to just kind of roam through and see the history of the Jaguar. I have a whole TikTok video out there about it if you want to check it out. I think it's pretty good. They also had a Nintendo Power gallery of covers from Nintendo Power. Love this as well, especially since I did that episode with Mark Erickson and he had done some covers as well for Game Pro and other magazines. And again, to have these displayed as pieces of art was really, really cool, especially some of the interiors, the guides, because that stuff is art. It really is very beautiful. A lot of that stuff was really, really cool. So very cool. And I have TikToks out there for those. If you want to check them out, feel free. So around 6:30, I secured some very, very convention-like food. The line for convention food looks like a pretty decent eatery, but good gravy, it is a long line to get their main food at Portland Retro Gaming Expo. And I didn't want to leave and come back. I don't know. For conventions, I like to stay in the hall as much as possible. And so there was a second stand or area that had mac and cheese, but you put brisket in it or turkey and some stuff. So I had some mac and cheese with something in it. I don't remember what it was. And it was fine for convention food, but boy, did it stick in my stomach. I felt like I was a lead balloon blorping around the convention hall after that. So what I did was I blorped on over to the cosplay competition. They had a cosplay competition. Now, this is a secret thing for me. I guess not secret. I just don't talk about it. I love cosplay. I think it's fascinating. I think the artistry, the fashion of it. I mean, if you know me, I worked in fashion for 7 years. I'm not a fashionable person per se, but I do know how to put together an outfit. And I just find the art of fashion very interesting and cool. So for me, I enjoy going to the cosplay competitions because it's just neat to see what people have done, what they've built, not off the rack, and just the artistry of it. The host of the cosplay competition was great. She was fantastic. She was just talking up all the different artists. She gave everybody a little bit of time to explain how they made it. She had a lot of fun with it. She was great. I wish I knew her name. I would like to congratulate her on such a good job. The problem is that the venue, this was at the stage where Rex Viper played. And I guess one of the lights broke because the only light that was illuminating the stage was a single orange-hued light that was casting almost like a spotlight on the stage. And then there was a second light because they were trying to do, I'm assuming at least 2 lighting, and it was off. And I'm assuming it broke. And things break in competition or in conventions. Things break. And maybe they couldn't get another light. But it was so disappointing as someone who really enjoys it and wants to see it, and most importantly, shoot it. I want to shoot the cosplay contest. I really dig those things, and I want to do some social media and do a TikTok on it. And the images that were coming back were so bad, and I couldn't get close enough, really. And I just felt, you know what? I'm just going to give this a miss. I watched half of it sparingly, and the costuming was phenomenal. It was also hard to find people walking around, because I do like that too. Just find people walking around, let them pose, trying to find a non-busy background for that to happen against. And I had the hardest time because the space is so spread out. It feels like it's less attended than it really is. And that's great because I didn't feel like I was getting COVID bombed or germ bombed at any point during the convention. I brought masks and I didn't need. I'm all vaccinated and I got my vaccination a few days before. So I'm good, but man alive, I was not, I felt good. I felt very comfortable walking around, but it was hard to find people to photograph. So I decided, that's the end of that. I did swing by the auction very quickly. The auction is the auctions are at 8:00 at night. Did I go back to the hotel that day? I did. I went back to the hotel, hung out, ate room snacks. Room snacks were my dinner that night. Cheetos were my dinner. I don't know, if everything was so expensive. I'm like, I am bleeding money at this convention. So Cheetos were my that was my foodstuffs. I went to the auction. The auction is where they sell. It's a big deal. The PRGE auction is a huge deal. And I think it's available to anybody. I don't think you need to have a badge to go. And I walk in and they're like, okay, sir, would you like a number? And I'm like, no, I do not. I am just here to watch. Because I know me, if I had a number in my hand, now I'm not compulsive like that. I wouldn't see a graded Zelda cart for $500 and buy it. That's not me. There was one thing though that was beautiful. Oh my God, it was beautiful. I would have so wanted it, but better sense prevailed. But I'm not gonna spend $500 on a video game thing. But I didn't want to sneeze, have my hand go up by mistake. I don't want anything identifying me as a legitimate buyer at these events. I just want to be casual observer. I went for 10 minutes and I saw on the Discord, my friends at the Gamers Week friends were all elsewhere. They went back to the hotel bar. So I joined them there, had another bit of food. Hotel bars got, not for nothing, service takes forever and they weren't that busy. It's not, and this is not just them. The hotel restaurant I was at, I went down for breakfast because I got 3 coupons for breakfast. And I went down and there's one person working. There's a whole bunch of people in there. Immediately apologizes. Hey, I'm the only person here. It's going to take a while. I sat and waited for 15 minutes, never got a menu. And I said, you know what? I'm just going to go elsewhere. I'm going to burn my coupon. So and again, not anyone's fault. Yeah, that's just part of it. But boy, oh boy, the hotel, for some reason, hotel bars and restaurants just take forever. And that's just been a common experience of mine. I don't know why I attempt it. So late dinner with friends, went to sleep. We did have thoughts about going out, but I think Ryan and Blue and definitely Ducks and Red Ox and Donnie, they were so wiped after working the show. They just wanted to go to sleep. And guess what? We're all getting up there in age. We're not at the age where we're partying, but I'm awake. I sleep. I go to bed very late, and I wasn't working the show, so I was working to do content, but I wasn't working it like they were. Wasn't performing or anything like that. But we all went to bed tired. Fine. So then day 3 hits. Day 3, I kind of spent more for me. If you were keeping an eye on the TikTok, you noticed there wasn't a lot coming out that day. That was on purpose. I wanted it to be more of a me day than anything else. I went there at 11 o'clock to my friend G to the Next Levels panel. He did a panel on obscure Genesis games and then talking about his growing up Genesis project. Really ambitious, very cool. Can't wait for him. It's a review project where he's going to literally review every Genesis game I think ever made. It's very similar to what my friend Greg Seward is doing, but I think he's got a different vibe. And definitely a different personality, of course. G to the Next Level is a very fun personality. Not saying Greg isn't, of course, but they're just different people. But it was a cool panel, well attended for 11 o'clock in the morning. Probably about 30 to 40 people, which, maybe a little less, but definitely good for the time slot. And it was cool. Again, social anxiety kicked in, and I wanted to say hi. I've met him in person before, and actually saw him in the elevator at the hotel. And by the way, when I say the hotel, I mean the Gamers Week hotel. I stayed at a hotel that was a 30-minute walk away from the convention center because I have no idea how to use Google Maps. I don't know where I am in physical space at any given moment. I just wander around this world blindly and dumbly. That's what I do. So I spent a lot of time at the Gamers Week hotel because getting back to my hotel was a pain in the rear. If you know Portland, I was across the river in the downtown area, not by the convention center. So yeah, a couple of Ubers and definitely using mass transit back and forth. After that, it was Blockbuster round 2. And for all the slamming I did on PRGE earlier, this day 2 is much better. The Gamers Week crew decided, you know what, we're just going to do a show. We're just going to do a show. We're going to showcase our personalities. And that's what they did. And again, there wasn't a lot of commentating because, again, the games that they were playing were not worthy of commentary. There weren't games anybody knew. If you looked up at the screen as a passerby, you just saw some random thing and there was nothing to commentate on. It wasn't like the Tetris World Championships, which I will talk about because boy, oh boy, they are, I don't even know if I'm recording this in sections. I don't know if I even talked about it yet, but boy, oh boy, that's a thing. Anyway, so it was a much better experience. They were doing giveaways and asking trivia questions and really letting their personalities shine through. And that made me very happy as a fan and a friend because that's, again, the point of their show. So a much better experience. I just wish they had more support from the venue. I wish they had more support because when you bring talent in, you should be supporting that talent. That's it. That's the bottom line. I don't know why that's even needs to be discussed. And I really it was definitely a big draw. By the time it ended, they had a good probably maybe 100 people in the audience. The problem was for the final round of the championship, the venue or PRGE, I don't even know, maybe it was their decision too. They brought up the celebrities that were there. And it was same people I've seen at a bunch of conventions. They must travel to these different places, get paid, and then stand at booths and do these things. The main guy, they had the general manager of the last Blockbuster in existence. That was very cool. She was talking about Blockbuster and like the rental scene. And then they had the guy, and I don't know his name, but they had the Boom Shakalaka guy. The Boom Shakalaka guy from NBA Jam. I've seen him at Classic Game Fest every year. I'm assuming he just goes around and travels to these places and sells pictures and sells, and says his things and does his shtick. And I get it, but they overshadowed my friends. I wanted my friends to finish out the performance. I wanted to see them do the big reveal, give them the trophy. Like, I really wanted them, and they were involved, but Blue and Ryan were kind of in the background a bit because Boom Shakalaka guy shows up. He's a professional. He knows exactly what to do, and he just took over everything. He's doing his shtick. You can tell these are jokes he's told 100 different times, and he's good, but he's a professional at this. He probably attends, I don't know, 20 conventions a year. And they brought him up to do the final round. And while Donnie was still on the floor, gathering scores and kind of talking up the contestants, Donnie, by the way, is so good at this. Like, he was really good. Everyone was good, but Donnie is especially good at being in front of people and almost like a game show host. He was excellent. So shout out, Donnie. You did a great job. And Blue and Ryan, you guys were great too. You guys showcased your personalities. Ryan was running around the audience, letting people answer trivia questions. He definitely got his steps in. They worked as a team, unlike the first day, which they just couldn't work as a team because of the technical situation. So long story short, they did a great job. But Boom Shakalaka guy, look, I'm sure he's a nice dude. I'd love to have him on the show if he's willing to talk about, I don't know, NBA Jam and saying those words. I don't know how interesting the conversation would be. He's a voiceover artist. I'm sure he's done other stuff, and I'd like to learn that and maybe learn his personal connection with games. I would go into different topics that he's used to. But I'd love to have him on the show. He seems like a nice dude, but man, I want to see my friends do well. That was my goal. I wanted to see my friends finish it out. And to have Boom Shakalaka guys show up and kind of basically dominate the last 20 minutes of the show was a bit of a bummer. I think the Gamers Week crew, though, they were tired and over it at that point. I don't think they minded. So that was just me, a persnickety thing for me. I wanted to see my friends finish it out, especially since they had a good momentum. They were doing really great, and it was a lot more fun. So, and then finally, the winner was a gentleman by the name of Nico, who was cosplaying as Cloud, a ridiculously cool cosplay as Cloud. And then right after his win, he won $1,500 and a really cool trophy. I got a chance to chat with him for a little bit about his experience, him winning the tournament, and what he plans to do with all that cold, hard cash.
And your name again? Just,
So my name's Jeremy, but I go by Nico.
So Nico,
ironically, yes.
Nico, congratulations! The 4th annual Blockbuster video game contest, whatever they call it. Sorry, congratulations on winning, man. How do you feel about it?
Thank you. I feel really good. I'm very surprised. I'm still super pumped.
How have you competed in these before? Do you do this often? Was just like, hey, I'm gonna swing by and do it?
It was literally just a hey, I'll swing by and do it. I mean, I've been gaming my whole life, but I figured I was going to be here anyways. And I was like, well, I don't really have anything planned, but there was this, and it's a free to sign up. I figured, what the heck? Never imagined.
That's awesome. Do you have any fond memories of Blockbuster? Going to Blockbuster maybe as a kid, or what would you say your favorite story of going to Blockbuster movie?
Oh, I don't know if I could pick one, but yes, I grew up as a Blockbuster kid. My family went every weekend. I used to get to download video game or get to rent a video game every weekend. That was like our big thing. First Blockbuster, then the pizza. So coming back this has been awesome. My parents were watching. Shout out to Mom and Dad. So yeah, this has been a dream come true.
That's awesome, man. I always remember the popcorn at Blockbuster was always better than anything you could get elsewhere. I don't know why it was.
That's right. It must have been some special recipe, probably some special butter or something. You know, they never released it, but.
Cool, man. Yeah. So you had a fantastic prize, $1,500. That's exciting. What's the first thing you're going to spend on it, and what's the last thing you're going to spend on it?
Okay, so legitimately, I saw a vendor earlier who has an old school Play Arts Advent Children Cloud, as I'm cosplaying right now, with the bike and everything. I told him if I won, I was going to come back and buy it. So I'm going to go tell him I won, and then the rest of it's going to be saved. Help my kid. I've got some cons coming next month. Probably buy some more cosplay stuff. We'll see.
That's awesome. And Mills, because adults. Hey, man, congratulations. That was a lot of fun. Congrats.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
And then after that, I made a conscious decision to not take any more pictures, not do any more video. I was done. I collected everything I needed to collect. I think I put out one more TikTok that day, but at a certain point at these things, I have to just stop because, again, I'm not being paid to do it. At ACL Fest, it's totally different. I need to generate work constantly because I get the I get the credentials from the organization. I get press credentials from ACL. I get them from South by Southwest. So in that capacity, I am working for them and for the blog that I write for. So I have to do it. But when it's on my own, I take it and be like, I am now done. So it was shopping time. I basically bought Pokemon cards and Pokemon stuff. Got my daughter a little Clefairy plush. Got my son a little bigger Gengar plush. Towards the end of the convention, I was told this. They are just giving this stuff, not giving this stuff away, but they're discounting because they don't want to bring this crap home. They're coming from all over the country. They don't want to ship it back. I picked up a Elite Trainer box for Will. I was just kind of standing at one of these Pokemon booths, just gazing at cards. And again, I like this stuff too. I'm now getting into it. I'd admit it's fun. And I picked up a few really nice water cards, like $3 a pop for Will because he's building out a water deck. I picked up a old school Pikachu. Old school first series, third printing, evidently, of Pikachu, chunky old school Pikachu, adorable. I think it was like $3. It wasn't great. It was in a little stiff case. And then I kind of spent too much money. I wanted to get Will a really nice Charizard card, a really nice one. He loves Charizard. Him and every other kid on the planet loves Charizard. I wanted to get him a really nice one. I'm in this glass case and I see there's a Charizard from, I think, the year 2020, pretty relatively new, super shiny. Kids like the shiny. And it was a graded 9. It was, I think, a PSA 9 or one of the other companies that do it, 9. And it was about $40 or $50, I want to say. Between that range, I bought other things. I don't honestly remember. I remember shaking a bit as I paid for it. I did buy this thing. This is a Christmas present. He does not have it yet. But he doesn't understand how much it costs. He won't. I just thought it was really cool. I'm like, I think he'll really love this. And so it's his first graded Pokemon card. Obviously, he can't play with it, but it'll be a neat thing for him. And who knows? Maybe down the line, he'll be able to be like, oh, Dad got this from you when I was 7. I don't know. Maybe it was just for me only because the Pikachu card is sitting on my nightstand as with Sis because he doesn't really know what to do with it because he plays. He collects to play. And obviously, you can't play with graded cards or anything like that. So I don't know. Maybe I just bought it for me and blamed it on my kid. But that was my big purchase. I think maybe 40 or 50. Again, I'm trying to genuinely remember. $1 Pokemon card. I think I was shaking as I pulled out the cash. I was like, oh my God, I'm really going to spend this kind of money on a piece of plastic, piece of cardboard. But I did. But hey, it was whatever. A splurchus. What can I say? Also at the convention, at the very, very end, I met Mark Erickson. If you remember the episode of the Mega Man 2 cover, he's a sweet guy. He's this sweet dude. And I met his son. I sent him over to the episode. I don't think I had. Just a sweet guy. It was really cool chatting with him and meeting a person I'd interviewed in person. So as I think I've mentioned a few times on the Discord and maybe on Twitter or elsewhere, this time of year, I'm usually covering the Austin City Limits Festival here in Austin, Texas. And Austin City Limits is this huge festival. It's usually 8 stages of music, and I will usually shoot artists, mostly people walking around and things like that. I have a photographer who comes with me who gets photo pit access, so he shoots all the bands very professionally. He's amazing. I write articles and do social media, and it's a work weekend, and I do one weekend out of the 2. And I've been doing this since 2016. I think 2016 was the first ACL Fest I attended. Again, I attend with press credentials, so I have a little more access than others. It's a great experience, and I love doing it. It's exhausting, but I love doing it, and hence why I kind of identified with the struggles that Pixelpons and Gamers Week went through during this week. And this year, the blog I've been writing for since I moved here in 2013, they had decided to not put in the application for me to get credentials this year. For both ACL Fest and South by Southwest. For reasons unknown. The reason they gave was we're not producing any new content because we're moving to a new server and with a new domain and et cetera, et cetera. This is a site that I love. I've wrote for them for a while. I'm very good friends with the owners or the former owners. During COVID, they sold it. They had to. And it went through 2 hands until it's with this new person who's basically stripped it down to a very standard, basic listicle site. It was a very special site, and now it's just basically another clickbait, regurgitating reviews from Yelp and top 8 this, top 10 that, and it's just not content I want to create. It's not work I want to do. And this year, and just so you know, I get these credentials from these venues, from the organizations. They don't pay for them. They're free. I've just been getting them for years and years, and I'm kind of on the list, and, not a flex, but I am pretty automatic in getting them. But this year they elected to not do it for whatever reason, which allowed me to attend Portland Retro Gaming Expo. Instead of doing ACL, I'm like, well, I now have this weekend available. I'm going to check out this game expo. And I got to say, at the ACL Fest and South by, I was starting to age out of it a bit. Now, as far as like professional reporters and such, not bloggers, they are of a certain age, and the photographers are all, of a certain age. They're all older people like me, professionals who've been around a while. But a lot of the people there are very hip, young, trendy bloggers and influencers. And I am not a young, hip, trendy blogger / influencer. At least once per festival or event, I have this moment of like not belonging. Like, oh, I'm just too old for this. I could be some of these kids' dad. I am getting too old for this. And going to the Portland Retro Gaming Expo, well, first off, not getting those credentials this year hurt my ego a bit. I've been doing it for a while. I love reporting on music, but to not get those really stung. And the reason going to Portland Retro Gaming Expo for me helped soften that blow, because I felt like I belonged, as opposed to being the old guy in the media room with a bunch of young people, doing hip interviews and just flipping their hair around where I have no hair to flip. I was with people of a similar, not only age bracket, which again, it's a pretty wide one, but not only just an age bracket, but of a similar fandom and interest, because I love video games. I love retro games. And to be around people of a similar feel felt very welcoming and very accepting. I really felt at home hanging out not only at the Portland Retro Gaming Expo, but hanging out with the people at Gamers Week and Pixel Pods, etc. I've said it a number of times on this show, the popularity of this show, and this is a very small show still. It's a small audience. If you're listening to this all the way here, you're part of a pretty small audience, but one that sticks around, which I appreciate. And to be around, this audience was really built off of the backs of a lot of people. Again, Ryan and Donnie and Blue with Story Mode, and now, of course, Gamers Week. And not just them, of course, the Well-Read Mage and Seth from All N and the fellas at New Dad Gaming. And really anybody who's, and the Elitist guys, anybody who's let me be on their show and let me guest. Games My Mom Found, Mike Alberton. I mean, all of these different people have helped me create this show, and not just create it, because the creation was there, but get it to the eyes and ears of other people and expose it to it. Because if there was no audience to feed this wouldn't exist right now. And there is an audience that feeds the drive to do this show. So to be accepted into a community feels really good. I am somebody, I don't make a lot of friends easily. I do struggle with some social anxiety. I can be very awkward. I'm very into my own self. I have an ego. I know I do. It's just fatal flaw of me. And to be accepted and really feel at home with people was worth more than any Austin City Limits Festival, any music festival, any press credential I could have possibly gotten. Sitting at dinner with the folks from Gamers Week and Pixel Pods, conversing, laughing, joking, and just feeling accepted into a group was really rich for me. It really meant a lot. And this is going to get corny. It meant a lot to me to just, again, feel accepted by my peers, by people I respect, people whose work I respect, and to just be part of a group. Again, I work from home. I don't get to be part of groups a lot. I am part of some groups, but I don't know. I felt very at home, very welcomed, very accepted. And if that was the only good thing to come out of PRGE, that was worth the plane ticket, that was worth the hotel stay, and that was worth the price of credentials. So, man, I really appreciate it, and also thank you to everybody I met at PRGE. It was awesome putting faces to board names and names to message board names, like real names. I know there's a Brandon, and I know there's a Nicole. I know I know people's names now, which is nice. And I honestly say it was a very exciting and inspiring weekend. If you're listening this far, you care, so I'll say it. The future of this show is a little uncertain as of this moment. I do have to make some hard decisions based on life events and things that are going on. I don't think the show is ending per se, but it may be pausing. You will know more within the next couple of weeks because there are a couple of more episodes that are ready and in the can. But this event really pushed me. It really re-inspired me to do good work and do more work because I'm around people who are doing good stuff. So Portland Retro Gaming Expo was amazing. If you are considering going, I really think you should. It's an awesome weekend in a really cool city with really cool people. And again, I would love to make this a yearly thing if possible. We'll see. We'll see what happens next year when Portland Retro Gaming Expo 2024 comes around the pike. Thank you so much for checking out this edition of A Gamer Looks at 40. If you like this blathering, most of the episodes are not this blathering. They are collections of short stories from people and bloggers and everyday folk who just enjoy games and have stories about retro games. It's kind of what I do here. So please check out the plethora of content and work that's out there on the feed. Check me out on Twitter if you haven't done so already, A Gamer Looks at 40. Thank you very much to my brother-in-law, Pete Harney, and Kev from the Discord for helping cut up the interviews. Thank you to my guests who take their time to join me. And thank you for your listenership. It is always appreciated, more than you could imagine or know. Thanks again for checking out the show, and until next time, just be kind to yourselves and each other.